Hello, everyone. Oh, yeah. This is Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is June the 8th, 2018. I've got a flight to catch back to the United States pretty soon. Strong hand, long-term thinking. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Okay, so I'm pretty pumped for this show today because it's at the weirdest hour that we've ever had it. It's like 4 a.m. back in the United States. But who cares about North America today, baby? Because we've got guests on from all over the freaking world. I'm in Norway right now, in Oslo, where it never gets dark. But we've got down in South Africa, in Cape Town, we got Abraham Cambridge. Then we got Christian. He's out in Thailand. Then, of course, and he's an American, though, but that's awesome because I am too. And then we got Igor down in Brisbane, Australia. And introducing Stefan Livera down in Sydney. This dude rocks, man. All of their links are below. All their Twitter links are below. Click on that. There's discounts to get a Trezor. You know the whole thing, T-shirts and everything. So we're going to start it off with Stefan here. This week in Bitcoin, there have been a lot, well, in cryptocurrency in general, we've been hearing about these 51% attacks on these altcoins. And to me, it's just a reinforcement of that Bitcoin is the one. Will this get some of the smarter people out there, the more logical people, more onto a Bitcoin maximalist kind of a track? And yeah, what do you think about all of this that's going on? And tell us a little bit about yourself too, because not everyone knows you yet, since you haven't been, this is your first time on the show.
Yeah, sure. So just from my point of view, I've just been a long-time Bitcoiner. I consider myself an advocate. I am mostly informed by the Austrian economics point of view. And through that, I then sort of learned a bit more about the cypherpunks and this whole mission to create sound money. So that's sort of my background. Been a long-time libertarian. But yeah, interesting comments you make about the 51% attack. It's almost been lying dormant as a risk. And only now it's starting to really come to front of center, and people are starting to realize, well, hold on, if we're using the same mining equipment for these different coins, that automatically starts a bit of a dominance play, because the best coin, if you're not on the best coin, you're more vulnerable to an attack. And that's, as we've seen recently with was it Verge, and another one also got recently 51% attacked. Sorry,
Zencash, it was.
Zencash.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I saw an interesting sort of little league table the other day. I'll see if I can find the link some other time. But essentially that league table sort of showed the estimated cost to attack different coins. And it even showed, I think, what's it called, the nice hash. So people could theoretically calculate, okay, what's the cost to rent the hash power to attack these worser coins. So that is going to have a tendency of sort of centralization in a sense, that it will go towards the more dominant coin. That's kind of the initial thoughts that I'd have on that.
Yeah, no, excellent. Now, Igor, you were going to say something about this. What do you think about these attacks, and does it get you more? And show everyone your shirt too, Igor.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's the shirt. Yeah, I mean, regarding those 51% attacks, I'm actually surprised it actually hasn't happened before. Like, it's just been happening now, because it's just so easy to do it. And funny enough, like recently, Roger Ver was like, they released the zero confirmation updates to the Bitcoin Cash, right? And saying that we don't need to confirm it, we don't care about confirmations and all that. But to actually prevent the 51% attack and wait for the reorg, you gotta like actually get enough confirmations to make sure you don't get like the unroll of the chain, you know, and you can double spend. And that kind of shows you how stupid that kind of update was to allow like zero confirmations. And yeah, basically, like, at least the good thing about it, all these other coins, at least they'll start to think, and they'll actually try to maybe implement something, because there's a lot of lousy ones. They thought, oh, we'll just fork it and we don't care about the hash rate, we'll get rich quick. But basically it shows how easy it is to basically hack those coins. And the other interesting thing that came out of Verge coin is that they were trying to be too smart. They were trying to like use 5 different mining algorithms, and they just introduced a lot of complexity into the system, which in fact introduces also a bigger attack surface, right? And like the hackers were able to just like use one of the mining algorithms and like obtain much less than 51% hash power and able to still hack the Verge. But what pisses me off though, like Verge didn't go down, like it just keeps going up. It's been hacked like twice and it just keeps going up. Like, I don't know, it just shows you how stupid that whole space is and how like people don't really care if it gets hacked or not. They just want to speculate. Well, that's the worst thing about it.
You bring up a great point. Complexity is the enemy of security, actually.
Yeah.
Or something. I mean, that's what Vortex had a tweet about that I mentioned yesterday. And Stefan, actually, you brought up a chart about how easy it is to attack some of these coins. Like how it's really cheap to attack some of these coins. Some of them are completely nonsense. But I linked to that at one point in a show of mine, like in the last week or so. So yeah, that's floating around out there, and it is very interesting. And Igor, your point about the price, it is hilarious with these people. It's like if it gets hacked, it goes up in price. People still are buying it. That's why the opening question was, is this, I guess for the smart money, I would hope that the smart money is learning their lesson from this, because these coins cannot long term, if you keep on having security problems, there is no value. I mean, what's the value?
Exactly.
Insecure. It's just totally speculation. Christian, what are your thoughts on this?
Awesome. Happy to be here, Adam, and excited to be on the show for the second time. I feel like a veteran now. In general, I think that these coins, the market reaction in terms of price may not be super logical until exchanges start losing a lot of money and start delisting. So I think until that happens, it's pretty clear that the market is not 100% rational at this point. So, we can kind of expect maybe some, irrational price behavior, price action. But ultimately, this is not sustainable for exchanges. They're the ones who are losing the money because they're double spending at the exchanges, withdrawing coins and trading coins at the same time. So, ultimately, when there's a big enough hack and enough, an exchange feels enough pain, I think that's when we'll see some big blows.
That's an excellent point, actually. And I think, the market is not it's about 20% logical. Pound that like button, people. Check out the links below to all these guys. All right, Abraham, what do you think about all this stuff?
Yeah, it comes as no surprise. I think it's probably a good thing that people are reminded of these weaknesses, of these vulnerabilities. And interested if anyone saw the most recent series of Silicon Valley, they actually highlighted a 51% attack on their coin, on the Piper coin, which I thought was hilarious. Like, they're actually now on a mainstream TV show. Okay, it's a pretty niche TV show, but it was just cool that they had shown what a 51% attack is. And am I mistaken? Did Bitcoin Gold have an attack?
Yeah, it did, and they're changing mining algorithms now or something.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it just shows why Bitcoin is the one. I'd be fascinated to see this table you're referring to about the cost to perform such an attack. I mean, that sounds like a really interesting stat. Yeah, it just proves why proof of work with all this mining power is, and you've got the dominant coin is dominant for a reason. It's resilient.
At that table, I'm going to have to post that below in the links below when I re-find it again, because we keep referring to it. I'm sure now some people that hadn't seen it before, and they'll want to see it.
Yeah, guys, I just found the link. I posted it. It's crypto51.app. And so basically it lists, basically the 1 hour attack cost for the various coins.
Wow. So $630,000 an hour to attack Bitcoin.
I think it's a little bit under across all the board, but it's still pretty interesting to see all the numbers.
Yeah, so I mean, if you scroll all the way down, some of those are just totally ridiculous. It's like $500 or something like that. Anyway, I wanted to also bring up a tweet that our very own Stefan Livera had. Think you're late to Bitcoin? Think again. Most normies are still caught up in blockchain technology, scammy ICOs, altcoins, and payment technology. So yeah, a lot of people are still dreaming like my altcoin is going to be the next Bitcoin. And that's why we see this. And you know what? It's personal responsibility here. We're out there telling people that Bitcoin's the one, but if people want to experiment with the other ones, go ahead. Be my guest. I don't know why you'd want to play with the ones though that have been like seriously attacked and clearly have some peculiarities about their security.
Yeah.
Stefan, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, for sure. So some of the Bitcoin and blockchain meetups that I've been to recently, some in Sydney, right? There's one called the Blockchain Professionals Meetup, and then there was another one that was basically like a risk manager talk sort of thing for like people who work at banks and that. And very much the way a lot of the people are thinking is still stuck in this kind of blockchain, not Bitcoin narrative. So not everyone, but there's still a fair segment of the market who are like that. And I think I don't know if you were going to bring this up later yourself, Adam, but there was that story that came out today. Blockchain firm R3 is running out of money, sources say, right? And yes. I think we're seeing here the collapse of the blockchain, not Bitcoin narrative. And, for guys who've been around for a few years, if you remember the way R3 came out, they were at the start, they were very, blockchain this, blockchain that. And then a couple of years ago, they came out with a blog post and they copped a bit of flack for it. But they actually, in a sense, they were already stepping back from that blockchain word and trying to use this word distributed ledger technology. And that in itself is a tell, right? It's like in poker, it's a tell that there's something wrong here. Blockchain itself is not an efficient technology on its own. It's efficient only if you want censorship resistance. And that's basically the sort of Bitcoin maximalist view that really blockchains aren't that useful unless you want to do Bitcoin sound money. So that's what I would say.
To me, this R3 thing was predictable all along because I've had a strong hand with Bitcoin and I knew just playing the blockchain game, the blind, using it as like a catchphrase buzzword, it can only go so far. It was like intranet back in 1997 or something like that. Intranet is bigger than internet type of stuff. Now, of course, the Blockchain Center down in Melbourne, I got to give them shout outs because they're about Bitcoin and everything. But again, they use that word so that they can, be more correct, I guess, get a bigger group of people. But some people are scared by the word Bitcoin. You shouldn't be, people associate it with all these nasty things, supposedly. But again, the thing that's nasty to me is when you start a blockchain company and it becomes worthless in the end of the day. The R3 people should have bought a bunch of Bitcoin instead of trying to create whatever they were creating. Do you guys have any thoughts on this R3 thing? Rest of the panel, had you heard about that? I heard about it this morning, actually.
I know that they had the word blockchain everywhere on the website. Then they removed it. Now they put it back in. I don't know why. So like for a couple of months they didn't have it on their website. They pulled it from everywhere. Now if you go to R3 website, they have it again. And I don't know what's going on there. They obviously have different thoughts about it.
Igor, blockchain is hot again. I work in the Bitcoin and blockchain media space right now, and the amount of press releases after Blockchain Week in New York about big time companies adopting blockchain has kind of exploded. So R3 is going with the times. Not Bitcoin is blockchain. Blockchain's bad, and now blockchain's back in. I heard that like this is kind of old news, but R3 is suing Ripple for a bunch of XRP, and Ripple won't give it to them. So maybe that's kind of like their last chance to clean up their finances, but it's not looking too good for R3.
It's exactly what I tell people. People think they get some Bitcoin, they should invest it in a company. No, just store your Bitcoin. So again, the people who started R3, they would have been better off just buying Bitcoin instead of spending all this money on whatever the heck they were trying to do. Abraham, do you have any thoughts on blockchain, or what's going on in South Africa? Are people still are they talking blockchain or talking Bitcoin? Because when I last saw you in Johannesburg in March, I was going to a very corporate event, and they were still talking blockchain there. I know that.
Yeah, I saw some stats on Google Trends that the per capita search term for Bitcoin is the highest in Cape Town than any other city in the world. like more than San Francisco, more than Berlin, whatever. But Cape Town, big Bitcoin is it, and we make no qualms. We're a Bitcoin company. People earn Bitcoin new platform through solar powering. Africa, we don't shy away from that. Why would we? We're trying to put the wool over people's eyes here, and that's, I guess, well, we've got a name for ourselves, because we're not trying to pretend to be something. We're not trying to use fancy terms like distributed ledger technology, blah blah. And yeah, the conferences they have here. So there it is called the Blockchain Africa Conference, but it used to be called the Bitcoin Conference. Then it was called the Bitcoin and Blockchain Conference, and now it's called the Blockchain Conference. And last year, Andreas Antonopoulos joked that next year it's going to be called the Distributed Ledger Technology Conference.
It's important to point out too, back in 2015, I actually met you at that conference when it was called Bitcoin. And now in 2018, when the last time I saw you, it was totally blockchain. They had it at the Microsoft office in Santon and everything. I mean, it was a good event and everything. It was good to see everyone. And of course, we met up the day before. We had our own little event there, and that was definitely a big.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
That was a Bitcoin event.
Yeah, and actually, I remember the discussion between Tony Vase and Lauren.
Yeah,
and there was something like, if Bitcoin Cash to run a node, it's like $17,000 worth of mining equipment, and that was when they had a 4 meg block. And now what's the block size been increased to? It's now a gigabyte.
32, I think 32 megs.
32 megabytes. And so I no longer know what the cost of running a node is, but they've increasingly centralizing the ability to run that chain, and they totally missed the point.
Well, again, centralization. People that invest in altcoins, they don't care about centralization at all. I mean, that's been lost on all the newbies to the space. I mean, centralization is a lost. Or decentralization is a lost art on these new people. They just want the latest, hottest, and greatest ICO or whatever. Now we're talking about specific. We're talking about what's going on the ground there in South Africa. We've got Christian is in Thailand. Now he's from California originally, but I want to know what's going on in Thailand, dude, in terms of Bitcoin. Anything? Do you notice anything there? Any news?
Yeah. So. Actually, literally every single city I've been to in Thailand, there have been Bitcoin and cryptocurrency meetups. And it's something that, at least amongst travelers and people I run into that are, I would say, more white collar, it's definitely something that they're familiar with. Yeah, it's really crazy. I've been to Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Pai, and now I'm on the islands. And in all of those towns, there's Bitcoin meetups. I was hanging out with some people I've met through work in Chiang Mai, and they were working, in Chiang Mai full time, doing ICO stuff and cryptocurrency stuff. And later they're doing a blockchain retreat in the mountains in Thailand. So it's definitely pretty prominent here. There's Facebook groups. It's like Asia, So crypto is hot. It's one of the best investments that they have access to. With low amounts of liquidity, it's huge.
Have you noticed any ICO scams? I would think they'd be running. You mentioned ICO. I'm like, oh God, it's in Thailand too. God, you can't avoid this stuff. Any scammy type of things going around?
I'm not super attached to like the same media, like social media circles, and Twitter and that kind of stuff. So like, even though I'm here in the flesh. I don't really get that feed, so I'm not familiar. I know that in like Vietnam, there was news of like some massive ICO scam that the people that put it on made away with just a bunch of ether. But yeah, that's the only thing I know about.
Awesome. Well, let's. I was going to bring up. It's been amazing lately. The scams have seemed to increase, and the thing going on Twitter with the free Ethereum. It is ludicrous. People are falling for it. I am getting these phishing emails, pretending to be exchanges, pretending to be Bittrex, pretending to be Poloniex. We've got these ICOs that are supposed ICOs that are just and supposed coins. I'm not even going to name their names. They constantly spam the comment sections. Stefan, you actually proposed. You were annoyed by what's going on Twitter in terms of the scams. I know that. Where I see a problem, I think I think people can make us, there's financial solutions to this. I think Twitter, they could somehow monetize this, and maybe get people to pay to, I don't know, for some premier service where you get to totally avoid this type of thing, or get a premier customer service from Twitter where they do exactly what you tell them right away if you send them a certain amount of cryptocurrency. I don't know. I'm thinking off the top of my head, but I think cryptocurrency could somehow be used to solve some of these problems on Twitter. What do you have to say?
Well, that was more just like a little throwaway tweet, but yeah, it's almost like a spam protection saying, what if Twitter were to just say, okay, for every new account now, you got to pay $1 to set up an account, just like a small token fee, something that won't impact, real people, but will impact a scam bot person who's going to try and run like 1,000 different scam accounts and so on. But yeah, but interesting you say that, actually, Adam, because it's Jack Dorsey is sort of very much a public Bitcoin maximalist, so it's very interesting to see how he's going to try and direct his companies, which is Twitter and Square, on how they could help promote a sort of Bitcoin centric economy, because that's really the honest way to do business, is to charge a fee for your service, give a product or a service and charge your fee in Bitcoin, rather than this whole Rube Goldberg, contraption machine of people doing an ICO or having some kind of token as a way of monetizing. If you see like the way Ripple did and so on.
Ah, yes, Ripple. Hey, I would say one thing. We got a lot of people in Australia in the chat right now. Hi, guys. Pound that freaking like button. And there are people that are still awake from Thursday night in Seattle in the chat right now. Gary, Invention, what's up? I see you dudes. I do get to check the chat a little bit more during This Week in Bitcoin than I do during my normal shows. All right, Igor, any comments on scams or anything?
I mean, in terms of scams, I think they were always around, like whether it was cryptocurrency, whether it was like mail scam, email scams, like it's never gonna like go away. Like if you introduce even a fee for Twitter, they will just find another way to bug you. So it's like, I don't think it's gonna fix much. It will actually, and plus for the Twitter, like it's my personal opinion, cryptocurrency is probably like it's a really small area. They don't really care about crypto Twitter that much. I don't know. Maybe I'm not using it as much. I don't really use Twitter that much, but I wouldn't say that.
This is a good question. Is it how important is the crypto Twitter to Twitter? I mean, I guess we're biased here. I thought they should really care about it, but maybe they care more about gossip. I guess they're. What am I saying?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're more 80%ers out there that are never going to care about their financial future at all. So I guess
Can I hop in there real quick?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So my theory is that this is not going to be addressed until the bots go into other avenues, because, I mean, I don't know, give it one more year and more people get into cryptocurrency, as we're assuming that there will be. Then it might be financially motivating enough for the bots to move over to TechCrunch or to move over to Bloomberg or something like that. And then what's going to happen? When a lot of newbies and a lot of people that haven't been seeing these bots start seeing it in their feeds, and potentially they have some Bitcoin or Ether or whatever laying around, and hey, let me I think that there's still a massive pool of scammable money in Twitter, and once we start seeing it seep into those areas, into those other verticals, then Twitter is going to start taking really proactive steps to fix it.
I think this is a great question. How big, how important is cryptocurrency to the world, to Twitter? But I remember there was a tweet earlier this week from Vinny Lingham, and he said that if cryptocurrency booms again, but then busts again, that it could create a recession or a major this is early on still, my opinion. Stefan, do you think that could happen if cryptocurrency booms again, but then goes down 80%? Could that really affect the world economy in a major way?
I would say we're probably a long way off from that.
Yeah.
I would suggest that, but yeah, I mean, there have been comments like that on the recent interview. What's his name? Mike Novogratz. He went on Bloomberg and he was basically making a comment saying, look, we're still early. He was making that comparison back to the .com bubble, saying, you know, if you scale based on inflation over the time since, and also that this is a global phenomenon, not just a US-centric one, that, you know, it's conceivable that crypto market could get to like 20 trillion or something ridiculous like that, you know. And I think the other thing to think about is the way to know you're sort of in the bubble is people don't think of it as a bubble. They think this is the new normal. That, you know, and so that's how you can sort of tell this, you know, November and December run up was probably, in my view, not even the big one to come. We've still got much more to come. And I think to your comments around the recession sort of aspect, yeah, look, I think from the Austrian point of view, we would say, yeah, there are a lot of, you know, we're living in sort of an everything bubble because there's so much cheap credit money. But Bitcoin is the solution to that, is because it's not a, you know, expansionary credit sort of money. It will bring us back to a more, you know, low time preference, long-term thinking kind of view. And there will be an initial, you know, it'll be an adjustment. There'll be a lot of people who have to kind of change jobs and industries that seem profitable, but are actually, in fact, not profitable. And we'll have to just adjust to that. But, you know, my hope is that it'll be a prosperous transition for society, for the world.
Yeah, I think my comments were on this, like, even though like everything is in a bubble, right? But the fundamental difference between Bitcoin is that people did not borrow money to buy Bitcoin. They use their money, their own hard-earned money, so they don't owe anyone this money. So even if Bitcoin goes to zero, so well, you lost your money, but it's not like you owe someone money now. If property prices go down or like share prices go down, you actually, like, especially with properties, like you have a mortgage to pay, and like if it goes down here in Australia, you still have to pay that back to the banks, and that's a big problem. While with Bitcoin, so you lose your money, you may lose your life savings, but a lot of people, maybe some borrowed the money, but most people buy it with their hard-earned cash, and that's the biggest difference. And also, like, Bitcoin is tiny compared to like international market. If Bitcoin goes up and crashes at the moment, I don't think it's going to affect much. Like it's still a drop in the ocean at the moment. It will obviously get bigger, but
I think it's such a completely new type of economic paradigm that you can't make any predictions. You can't say that this is going to happen and there'll be a recession, because you've got an entirely new economic framework taking place. And there's no government or central bank that's able to just print new money. There's no politicians that could delay and stretch out decision making. No money could be confiscated. Like, this is a completely different world. So it's I think Vinny's a little bit brash to say, yeah, this is going to cause a recession, because there's no basis for comparison. This is a whole new world.
Yeah. Vinny is very much into, he wants Bitcoin just to stabilize, have the same price for the next year to year and a half. You know, it's going to do what it's going to do. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. I am not concerned about what it's going to be in the next year in terms of fiat, because we're long-term thinkers. As a few of us have already used that terminology here, and everyone's got to think on that time scale. Don't think about what it's going to be tomorrow or whatever. But again, Bitcoin this is so early on that it couldn't crash the world's market if it went up to in the next year or two. No, we're still so early on in all this. Anyone else want to add on? There were people, I felt like I was interrupting people before. Did anybody else have anything to say about Twitter or any of the other stuff we're talking about? All right, good. Okay, so let's go down to South Africa here and ask Abe to give us an update about the Sun Exchange. You said a lot has changed since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, well, we've just we've grown a lot. So we've probably had around 600 new registered users over the past week. Obviously, I mean, just to remind everyone, like, the core philosophy of Sun Exchange is that being able to harness solar energy, harness our sun, is a fundamental human right. But most people in the world don't own a roof, or they live in locations where solar energy is non-favorable. So Sun Exchange exists to enable anybody to own a solar panel when it's located in the sunniest places on Earth, and from them earn Bitcoin. You know, we're monetizing sunshine, and crypto. Bitcoin is the fundamental payment system through which we transfer the value from someone's solar panel back to the owner. So as a result, we attract people into our ecosystem that get to use Bitcoin for the first time. We've just taken on Max Kaiser as an advisor, who actually helped get the company started through his Start Join platform back in the day, back in 2015, and he's really helped kind of hone in this message and what we're able to do. Obviously, our ICO launched 4 days ago. And obviously, we've done things properly. Like, we built a real solid business that's operating with customers, and then launched a token to make it better. We're not trying to create some far out plan, like idea, do an ICO to try and do it. No, we're not doing it like that. We've created our own token called SunX, and we've taken this staking functionality that's common in some tokens like Neo and I think Start and various others. But our token could be staked into a solar project insurance fund, which then protects our solar power plants against defaults. If a customer stops being able to pay their lease, the money would usually stop to our customers. But this crypto insurance fund through our SunX token prevents that. And so since Max has come on and we've launched, we've sold about 1.9 million tokens over the past 4 days. And it's really exciting because it shows how people are actually getting behind what is actually a real solid business model, and not just some pie in the sky idea.
I gotta say, so I don't agree with Max Kaiser on a lot of things, but he is a name that is very much known in the Bitcoin space and a huge pumper of Bitcoin. So is he gonna have you on the show, or is he gonna mention?
Yeah, no, we're on his show twice last week. One talking about our core business and talking about the SunX token and what that does, and the other actually looking about one of our specific projects. Now, one of the projects that we've got live right now on the Sun Exchange is to solar power a factory that makes bottles out of recycled plastics. So we can actually convert crypto into solar cells, which are real assets, which then send Bitcoin out around the world. Like, we're streaming monetized sunshine while solar powering a factory that's doing good stuff. We talked about that. And now Sun Exchange has just partnered with the United Nations Development Program to pilot this in Moldova, in Eastern Europe.
Oh, so Moldova!
This is the UNDP, right? Welcoming us to fund solar projects using Bitcoin in Eastern Europe. And that's the UNDP. Now, how is that for like a credible organization recognizing what the power of cryptocurrency? Now, we're also affiliated with the SolarCoin Foundation, so we're able to issue SolarCoin in addition to people's Bitcoin rental income, in addition to the SunX people earn and using our platform. So it's like this is really moving the goalposts on this meeting point between crypto and solar. And don't forget that solar energy is to the world of energy what Bitcoin is to the world of money. Now, these are both decentralized, distributed technologies. They're both creating an entirely new economic framework. They're totally complementary, and they're both philosophically the same thing. And so Sun Exchange has drawn those two things together.
Do any of you panel members have questions for Abraham about what he's doing down there with the solar panel and Bitcoin? I mean, it's some crazy stuff. It's some good stuff.
I mean, people can now earn basically a 12% rate of return on owning a solar panel located here in South Africa that's providing clean, affordable energy at no upfront cost to businesses and communities. And they're getting paid that in Bitcoin. Now, once they've received the Bitcoin, they can keep it. They can spend it on more solar panels if they want to, but they're getting into crypto. We receive emails every day from our customers who are using Bitcoin for the first time because they now own a solar panel in South Africa, including lots of people in Norway.
I have a quick question. So how exactly does it work? So they get a solar panel. I'm assuming they're taking some electricity for their home or wherever they're living. What Bitcoin do they get?
Think of it like this is Airbnb for solar panels, right? So it's for people, they could now buy a solar panel and have it installed on somebody else's roof, and that's all done through the sunexchange.com. Now, when your solar panel is installed on somebody else's roof, the person using the electricity from that solar panel pays you, the owner of that solar panel, for its use, and they pay Sun Exchange, and we then distribute that rental income as Bitcoin. And it's tied to the local electricity price. So we guarantee lower energy costs than the alternative. So like fossil fuel and coal power in South Africa is now more expensive than solar energy. So we're able to cut the energy costs for industry and decarbonize them at the same time and give them power instantly from solar. and the owner of the solar panels then get to own a solar panel that's located somewhere that's optimal. Now, if you own a solar panel in, let's say, Norway, you're going to get a fairly low return from that. Or if you did get a subsidy from the government, you're relying on government policy to support that income. So it's kind of an artificial market. Put a solar panel in somewhere like South Africa where there's loads of sun, no subsidy. It works on its own merits purely because solar technology now is so good. You just need to put the solar panel somewhere it works. And Sun Exchange allows people to own solar panels where they work. And Bitcoin connects the two.
Dude, you're making news, man. If you got in touch with, if you got hooked up with Max Kaiser there, I mean, you're growing this thing. Every time we get a cool update from you. And so thank you much. It's linked to below, Sun Exchange, Twitter. Follow it, learn about it. It's some interesting stuff definitely going on. Well, since Abraham he's got to talk about his story there. Stefan, do you have a story of the week or anything you want to share? Any news that we have not brought up so far?
I think there was a good let me just 1 second. Yeah, so there was a really good article by this guy named Toronex, and he was basically talking about increasing Bitcoin privacy using the Lightning Network. And I thought that was a really fascinating article. You might have seen it. It was being shared around on Twitter a little bit. And basically what he was saying is over time, once the network gets big enough, what people can do is basically set up 2 different nodes and try to set them up intentionally such that they are quite far apart and that it requires a lot of multi-hops, let's say, to go through to connect. And he was saying this is one way to increase the privacy of using your Bitcoins. So I thought that was a really cool thing. And so we're sort of seeing all these different ways of improving on Bitcoin, whether in its fungibility or in its decentralization. So, you sort of combine all of these things together, and it really kind of builds the overarching ecosystem. So you're seeing this like as one example of increasing the privacy on layer 2. And we're also seeing examples of increasing privacy on layer 1, which is this new paper that came out on Dandelion++, which is a way to help the miners avoid sort of being, or not miners, but avoid nodes being de-anonymized, or users of Bitcoin being de-anonymized. And so it basically talks about a way of transaction propagation such that it can help maintain people's privacy. So, and then the other big one is really Matt Corallo's Better Hash. So that's another new thing coming out as well. I'm still trying to do a bit more reading and learning on that. But from my understanding, essentially it is trying to change the way the mining pools are structured such that the way the blocks are put together and the way the payouts are done is sort of segregated. And in doing so, it helps sort of decentralize mining, which is, as we sort of, most people who are close to the Bitcoin space have some idea, or that's a risk there currently of centralization. But this, hopefully this proposal could help improve that.
Igor, did you have something to say to what he just said? I thought you were about to say
something.
Yeah,
Better Hash is like it's a huge thing, like because at the moment, if you have a miner, if you try to solo mine, like it'll take you probably like 10 years to get a reward. So you kind of are forced to join the mining pool, and if you join the mining pool, then the mining pool kind of dictates all the rules. So if mining pools, for example, signal for a certain protocol upgrade, it's very easy to convince a mining pool to signal for a certain thing. And that was the problem back in July when like there was all this drama with like SegWit not signaling. So what Better Hash is trying to achieve is kind of segregating the construction of the blocks functionality with the payout functionality. So what can happen is that you can join the mining pool, they'll control the distribution of rewards, but you get to decide how the blocks are constructed. If you don't want to if you don't bother about this stuff, you can still use their algorithms, but you can use your own way of constructing blocks, thus kind of decoupling yourself from that pool. Or you can nominate another pool to construct blocks for you. So it kind of makes it really decentralized now, because then now mining pools don't have that power of dictating the certain rules to you. So that's a huge thing. If it gets approved, like it's going to be big. Like all this talk about Bitcoin being centralized in China or whatnot, Bitmain, being centralized. It's like it's all gonna go away because it's all gonna become really decentralized. So this is really big, this thing. The other one I really liked was the Andreas was talking about this improvement to the Lightning protocol, where you could use like multiple channels, not like paying via one channel, but you can actually use multiple channels to actually combine the payment and pay it all at once. So that kind of also improves the privacy and the speed of transaction. And the third thing, like obviously, because I work for Stratus, I'm a core dev, we are releasing the Tumblebit protocol, which only works on Bitcoin. So we are working with Bitcoin core devs, with Nicholas Doria. So we will be releasing a Tumblebit as well. So Tumblebit will allow you to pretty much put your Bitcoin through in Tumbler, and then it comes out. What comes out on the other end is pretty much a private coin that can be tracked. So that's another thing that's going to come out soon, like Q2. So yeah, that's another interesting thing.
A lot of privacy news here, and I like how Stefan you pointed out that the Lightning Network can make things a bit more private, and that's some of the FUD against Lightning Network is that it's not that it's a big conspiracy by some centralized bank or something like that that'll get rid of your privacy. I mean, the things you hear, and I'm glad you guys are debunking the FUD. Igor talking about the decentralization aspect too. Christian, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask Igor, what makes Tumblebit better than other mixers that haven't been as successful?
It uses a slightly different protocol. It also like you gotta we're kind of really working closely with Bitcoin core devs, so that's going to be really big. It's a bit slow, but it does, like at the end it produces the good results, because tumblers are still reversible. If you apply certain heuristics, you can still, like if you spend some like good time on it and a lot of like investigation, you can still like figure out where the funds came from. So this one is kind of a bit more advanced tumbler.
Whoa! So is there going to be a perfect tumbler one day?
I don't think there's such thing as perfect,
okay.
right? And even like the hashing, like SHA-256 is not perfect, but nobody cracked it yet. So like that's kind of the thing behind it.
Hey, well, and one last question for you, Igor. What's the scene like there in Brisbane in terms of the Bitcoin? I mean, I don't know how involved you are. I mean, are there any meetups there? Does it seem like it's growing? Is it more corporate? Are they more blockchain-y?
Yeah, it's growing. There's a few like startups here. Like one of the biggest one is Living Room of Satoshi. You probably like a lot of people heard about it. It allows you to pay any like Australian bill using your Bitcoin, and there's some other alts as well you can use to pretty much like pay anonymously almost. Well, it's kind of semi-anonymously because you still have to put your email address in. But it allows you to pay all your Australian bills, or you can transfer money into your bank account using Bitcoin. So that's pretty cool. There's a fair few meetups, but yeah, it's not as big as Melbourne. But it's kind of getting there.
Stefan, you mentioned Sydney before, and you talked about the scene being a bit more corporate there. Do you have anything to add about, to tell the world what's going on in Sydney in terms of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so I would say with Sydney, there's two main meetup. Oh, there's a bunch of different meetups now. I mean, we've got a huge space. I haven't been as involved, but I go to them every now and then. So probably the big two would be, there's this one called the Sydney Blockchain Professionals Meetup, and that's that one I was telling you about, which is kind of more corporate-y, enterprise blockchain, distributed ledger technology, blah blah blah, right? But then there's also the Sydney Bitcoiners Meetup, and now we're starting to see a lot of these kind of crypto trader group meetups and things like that. So I haven't gone to some of those. I've kind of more attended the Bitcoin one, and just every now and then I'll go to the blockchain professionals one just to keep a finger on the pulse and understand where they're thinking and how they're thinking about it. But it is definitely, in terms of if you just talk to the random people around Sydney, I feel like people will sort of make jokes about Bitcoin and they've heard about it. That's a really cool thing that it's now coming into pop culture. You're seeing it on like random Marvel comics. You're seeing it on Silicon Valley. You're seeing it on Billions, right? The guy literally, what's his name? Bobby Axelrod literally hands the guy a ledger, on the show saying, here's $1 million in crypto. So that's really the sort of the measure of our times.
What's your advice to the young guys that think they're cryptocurrency traders?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to offend people, but I think there's a lot of crypto degeneracy, like crypto degenerate traders who are looking for the new Bitcoin, or they're looking for like, oh, look, this hot new coin, it's going to 10x. Yeah, guys, get in that. And, you know, it's almost like this version of the, you know, our generation's version of the penny stock traders from like the 90s and whatever. And I think it's like some business models have been concocted or crafted in a way to try and normalize things that would normally not be. So an example might be people who go to Starbucks in the morning because they try to normalize this idea of having like super sugary desserts for breakfast, which would normally not be okay. And in the same way, people are sort of gambling without calling it gambling on going on all these groups and trying to talk about what hot you know, coin is going to moon and so on. And I mean, that's become a bit of a global meme now. Everyone's talking about like crypto, this and that. But, you know, as you were saying, I think it'll take some time and it will eventually clear out. And at the end, there'll be one king coin, and that will be most likely Bitcoin. So that's sort of the, you know, I would say if you are a trader, you know, you want to, I wouldn't personally, because I think the other advice I would give is from a, well, not advice rather, but it's more just consider, like, look, from a tax point of view, if you're moving between cryptos, you're, you know, put it this way, the Australian tax office and the IRS and all these other tax offices of the world, if anything, they're encouraging you guys to hold, because if you keep trading around, you're going to have to pay crypto taxes. So if anything, the governments of the world want you to buy and hold. That is ultimately the kind of, what I feel is the best strategy. And you know, ultimately, if you denominate, you know, your net worth and your income and so on in Bitcoin, I think from a maximalist point of view, that's the best place to be, because at the end of the game, this is like a big game of musical chairs, and there's going to be one chair at the end that everyone runs to.
I think everyone that's familiar with my channel can see why I like this dude so much, man. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. One Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. Yeah, just strong hand, people. If you're tempted to sell, you're going to end up paying taxes. I would say that the governments of the world want you to be a trader because they want your tax income. They want the taxes. But yeah, their policies encourage smart people to do nothing. Just sit there and wait it out. I'd also like to remind everyone that, hey, if you like this kind of talk, if you like the straight Bitcoin talk, check out the links below, because I'm going to be in Boca Raton on the 12th, which is coming up real soon. I'll be talking there. It's going to be an awesome meetup. And then in Alberta, I'll be at the Bitcoin Rodeo July 9th and 10th. And just check out all the things I'll be in Alberta in July. I'll be in Puerto Rico in late June. I just wanted to get all that out there. I don't usually get to say that stuff on this show specifically. And we do a new show here every single day. Was someone about to say something? I felt like I interrupted. All right, Abraham, what are some conclusionary remarks from you? Stuff that we've left out, things that you think have to be mentioned.
That's there's probably a lot more to talk about. We're starting an ambassadors program for Sun Exchange. So if anybody wants to get involved with us, we're currently hiring people, representatives. So we're lacking Spanish speakers, Japanese speakers, who obviously the world needs to know about Sun Exchange, because this is the ultimate solution for solar powering our world and converting people into crypto. So if anyone wants to join us in our mission, go visit our website or go to our Telegram channel. Our Telegram channel is linked through our website at sunexchange.com as Sunex_official on Telegram. So please come and contact us if you want to get involved.
You need, okay, we have a lot of Spanish speakers that listen to watch this show, that listen to this show. So guys, he just gave you an opportunity. Be in motion.
Yeah, especially as we're getting contacted by people, energy users we do here in South Africa. Sun Exchange is perfectly able of solving those energy issues, and we just need to sort of start translating what we're doing into Spanish.
Well, I got to say that Abraham and Christian, they've been in motion here. They're talking to each other on the chat here, trying to get things going. I love it. Putting people together. You know, when these guys come on the show, some of them didn't know each other beforehand. You come up with ideas. I love everyone out there. Be in motion. You watch this show, you end up in motion when you hear about opportunities like that. Christian, any news stories that we left out you wanted to bring up?
Okay, so I kind of want to touch back on the Matt Corello update. I'm super excited about this. And if you want to learn more but don't want to like read any technical stuff, he does a really good interview with Marty Bent on the podcast Tales from the Crypt, and they have a pretty, I think, it's a very intriguing conversation, and he kind of discusses how mining is working right now and how the change will improve the way that mining works and makes it a lot more decentralized in a really easy to understand way. So check that out. I'm extremely excited about it, and this kind of innovation is stuff that is coming out of the Bitcoin community, and we just don't see this kind of innovation solving problems for other networks. I love Bitcoin, and I think that the way that we're developing it and people are developing it is the right way. Second, I always like to take an opportunity to stamp out the Bitcoin is bad for the environment meme. I think that anyone who puts in any sort of critical thinking will conclude that Bitcoin, if anything, will help the planet become more green because it incentivizes people and enables green technology.
Christian, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I was going to say, I forgot to mention that. A lot of mining is done where there's surplus hydropower and surplus geothermal power. This is energy that would otherwise be unused. It's completely benign to the environment, and it's really, really cheap. Like hydro in New Zealand is less than $0.01 a kilowatt hour. So like this is harnessing natural resources to create a digital resource which solves our financial problems. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty deep argument, but really, if you dig in and do apply a little bit of critical thinking, you will conclude that energy consumption in general, like as a general concept, is not necessarily bad. It depends. There's a lot of nuances, and Bitcoin mining, it has some really amazing incentive structures. And then last update, I'm going to show my company's event a little bit. I work for BitcoinMagazine.com, and we do a bunch of events. We got one coming up in San Francisco called Distributed 18. We're trying to make it like a consensus-esque event where it captures the whole industry, Bitcoin all the way to enterprise blockchain. It's going to be a really good event in San Francisco. A lot of big companies are going to be there. So check out the website, Distributed18, 2018.distributed.com. It's going to be a good event, but that's all for me.
When is that event? When is it?
Yeah, sorry. It's July 19th and 20th.
All right.
In San Francisco.
It's a beautiful set. You're talking, he's from California and everything. So he knows about the environmentalists screaming about the Bitcoin's going to, or not I'm not even going to say it's FUDsters that are screaming about Bitcoin's going to destroy the environment. Hey, Igor, any thoughts, any concluding thoughts? Did you want to mention anything about, you personally or about Bitcoin not destroying the environment or anything?
No, I mean, all I would say, like, people get into like this space, like you don't have to be a developer, you don't have to know much about crypto, just learn about it and just get in. Any skill could help. If you're an accountant, you can help. If you're a lawyer, you could help. If like pretty much any profession is in high demand in this space, and it helps to spread the word, about Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, even marketing people, anything, non-tech people, there's a lot of opportunity. Again, Abraham just gave out that opportunity about Spanish speakers. All right, Stefan, we'll end it with you. Did you have any conclusionary thoughts about the Bitcoin not destroying the environment? Because that's a famous. Yeah.
Sure. So I think there were some good points made by a couple of guys. I think Richard Hart made a good point. Richard Hart made a good point about Bitcoin and proof of work being needed as a signal to humanity. So it's needed in a sense that it proves that it makes it harder for somebody to write the chain back further, and that makes it harder to sort of write further blocks on top of it. And in doing so, it gives people more confidence. And if by doing that we can get more confidence in this sound money, well, that will help remove the problems that we've been plagued with by all of the unsound money. So in short, I would say, yeah, look, we're going to look forward to a future where Bitcoin is probably taking up 20-30% of the world's energy, but here's the catch: it'll be worth it. We will be so much more prosperous because of that.
I just want to point out what's the alternative. I mean, often when people talk about the energy demand of Bitcoin, they don't look at the alternative, which is the existing financial system relies on digging gold out of the ground, transferring it around the world, storing it in vaults with massive glass and steel air-conditioned buildings with hundreds of thousands of humans driving fossil fuel-powered cars to go and run and operate. It's a way less elegant solution than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin can only get better. The existing financial system can only get more environmentally damaging.
Well, there you go, people. We'll end it with that. This panel, this super duper 4-man international panel. I thank all of you for coming on the show today. This was a very special early show. Remember to pound that like button, people. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the links below. I do a show on the BitcoinMeister channel every day. We do This Week in Bitcoin every Friday. The time varies. On Saturday is the Beyond Bitcoin show. We talk about subjects that go beyond cryptocurrency. That will be on later on Saturday, East Coast time, after the Belmont horse race, probably quite a few hours after the Belmont horse race. I want to see that. But it's only 2 minutes of your time, the horse races. Don't worry, I'm not a big TV watcher or anything like that. It's buy and hold Bitcoin, everybody. So I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, Disrupt Meister. I will see you guys tomorrow, next week, whenever. Thanks a lot. Goodbye. Have a great weekend. See ya.